January 6, 1995. Pittsburgh, Pennsylvania. Two banks. One morning, one man with a gun and a face covered in lemon juice. He didn't wear a mask. He didn't need one. Because he had done the research, he knew that lemon juice works as invisible ink on paper. So he reasoned logically, in his mind, that if you rubbed it on your face, you would become invisible to cameras. He tested it. He took a Polaroid of himself after applying the juice. The photo came out blank. He was convinced. That evening, police broadcast clear surveillance footage of his face on the 11 o'clock news. By midnight, there was a knock on his door. When detectives showed him the tapes, he stared at the screen in disbelief. But I wore the juice. His name was MacArthur Wheeler. And his story didn't just end in a Pittsburgh courtroom. It ended up on the desk of a David Dunning psychologist named David Dunning, who read the case and asked one question that changed how we understand the human mind. If Wheeler was too incompetent to be a bank robber, was he also too incompetent to know he was too incompetent? What followed became one of the most cited psychology facts in modern science. It's called the Dunning-Kruger effect, explained simply. The less skill you have, the more capable you believe yourself to be. And before you think this is about someone else, stay with me. Because this brain hack your mind runs on you is quieter, smarter, and far more dangerous than a man with lemon juice on his face. And it's running right now. Here's what makes the Dunning-Kruger effect so hard to defend against. It doesn't feel like ignorance. It feels like clarity. Think about the last time you learned something new. A new skill. A new subject. A new field. Remember that moment. Maybe a few days in, maybe a few weeks, when it all started to click. When you thought, okay, I think I actually get this. That feeling is real. But what your brain doesn't tell you is how much you still don't know. There's a new employee, 3 weeks into a job. She's sharp. She's motivated. She's read everything she can find. And she has already decided her manager doesn't know what he's doing. She has 3 weeks of context. He has 11 years. She is certain. He has doubts. There's a man at a dinner table who watched one documentary about economics and is now explaining inflation to everyone in the room, not asking questions. Explaining. With the confidence of someone who has spent years studying monetary policy, which he has not. And there's someone scrolling through social media right now, reading one post, one thread, one comment section, and forming a complete, unshakable opinion about a topic that experts have spent decades studying. Social media didn't create the Dunning-Kruger effect. It just gave it a megaphone. But here's the part nobody tells you. The Dunning-Kruger effect doesn't only run in one direction. It runs in two. Because while the least skilled people in any room are busy being certain, the most skilled people are busy doubting themselves. The surgeon who triple checks before every procedure. The engineer who asks for a second opinion on work she's done 100 times. The writer who has published 12 books and still wonders if this one is good enough. This is not imposter syndrome. This is what actual competence looks like. Expertise doesn't produce certainty. It produces an awareness of how much more there is to know. Which means the most confident person in the room is rarely the most qualified, and the most qualified person in the room is often the quietest. Think about that. Now here's the question that should be sitting uncomfortably in your mind right now. Where are you on that curve? Not where you think you are. Where you actually are. You can't answer that question yet. And the reason why is exactly what we're going to break down next. In 1999, David Dunning and Justin Kruger published a paper in the Journal of Personality and Social Psychology. The title, Unskilled and Unaware of It. They ran 4 studies at Cornell University. Logic, grammar, humor. 65 undergraduate students per study. Same setup every time. Take the test, then estimate how well you did compared to everyone else. The results were more extreme than anyone expected. The students who scored in the bottom 12th percentile, meaning they performed worse than 88% of the room, estimated that they were in the top 62nd percentile. Not slightly off. 50 points off. They weren't just wrong. They were wrong in the most confident direction possible. Now, here's the other side that most videos leave out. The students who actually scored in the top quartile, above the 86th percentile in reality, estimated they were around the 70th. They underestimated themselves. The worst performers were the most confident. The best performers were the most uncertain. The curve runs in both directions. But why? This is where it gets precise. Dunning and Kruger identified what they called dual burden. The same skills you need to perform well in a domain are the exact same skills you need to evaluate how well you performed. Think about that for a moment. If you don't know how to play chess, you don't know which moves are mistakes, because recognizing a bad move requires chess knowledge. The skill and the self-assessment are running on the same engine. If the engine is weak, both fail at the same time. Now here's something most videos won't tell you. The Dunning-Kruger effect has been challenged, seriously challenged. Researchers in 2008 argued that some of the original findings could be explained by statistical artifacts, that regression to the mean alone might account for part of the pattern. Cross-cultural studies found that in East Asian countries, where self-effacement is a stronger norm, the effect was significantly weaker or even reversed. Dunning acknowledged this. He defended the core finding, but agreed the popular version had been oversimplified. So what does the science actually say? The effect is real, but smaller and more nuanced than the meme suggests. It is strongest in domains where people have clear priors about competence, logic, grammar, humor. Weaker in domains where even experts struggle to self-assess, like medical decision-making or financial forecasting. Which means the honest version of the Dunning-Kruger effect is not dumb people think they're smart. It's this. In the areas where you know the least, you are most likely to not know how much you don't know. And that applies to everyone, without exception, including the researchers who studied it. David Dunning himself said, "The first rule of the Dunning-Kruger Club is you don't know you're a member." We see this bias in other people. We don't see it in ourselves. And that's not a character flaw. That's the whole point. So now you know what the effect actually is. Not the mean, not the oversimplification, the real mechanism. The question is, what you do about it? Because knowing this exists is not the same as being protected from it. Here's what actually works. The problem with most advice about the Dunning-Kruger effect is this. It tells you the bias exists. It does not tell you what to do on a Tuesday morning. When you're about to make a decision and you have no idea how incompetent you might be. So here are 3 brain hacks that actually work, not in theory, in practice. Hack 1. Map your ignorance. Most people try to measure what they know. That's the wrong direction. Map what you don't know. Here's how. Take any topic you feel confident about right now. A skill, a subject, a decision you're about to make. Now ask yourself one question. What would someone with 10 years of real experience know about this that I haven't even thought to ask yet? Then write down 5 questions you genuinely cannot answer. Not 5 things you know. 5 things you don't. Here's why this works. The Dunning-Kruger effect thrives in the space between what you know and what you don't know. Writing down your unknowns forces your brain to confront the edges of its own map. And the moment you see the edges, the overconfidence starts to dissolve. If you're 3 months into a new role, what does my manager understand about this client that I haven't figured out yet? If you just finished an online course, what would a practitioner with 5 years in the field say I'm still missing? The number of questions you can't answer is a more accurate measure of your actual skill level than any feeling of confidence you have. Trust the questions, not the feeling. Hack 2. Seek disconfirmation. Your brain is not looking for the truth. It is looking for permission to believe what it already believes. Disconfirmation breaks that loop before you commit to any position you feel strongly about. Ask this. What is the strongest argument against what I currently think? Not a weak argument, the strongest one. Ask this. The one that actually gives you pause. If you can't find it, you haven't looked hard enough. If you find it and it doesn't move you at all, that's useful data too. But most of the time, finding the real counter-argument is enough to recalibrate how certain you should actually feel. In the workplace, before telling your manager they're wrong, ask, what do they know about this situation that I don't? In investing, before buying in with full conviction, ask, what are the best bears saying about this asset right now? In any disagreement, before deciding you're right, ask, what would I have to believe for the other person to have a point? This is not weakness. This is how competent people actually think. Hack 3. The expert audit. The fastest way to locate yourself on the Dunning-Kruger curve is to put your work in front of someone who is genuinely better than you. Not your peers, not your friends. Someone who has already gone where you're trying to go, and ask them the right question. Not, what do you think? What am I missing? What would you do completely differently? What's the thing I don't know yet? Here's what happens every time. The gap between your self-assessment and their answer is your real position on the curve. If you're a new creator, don't ask your subscribers if your content is good. Find someone 3 years ahead of you and ask them what's wrong with it. If you're learning a skill, don't measure yourself against people at your level. Find someone at the level you want to reach and ask them to be honest. The feedback will be uncomfortable. That discomfort is the cure. 3 hacks. Map your ignorance. See the edges of what you don't know. Seek disconfirmation. Find the argument that challenges you most. The expert audit. Close the gap between who you think you are and who you actually are. You don't need to use all 3 every day, but you need to use at least one before any decision that actually matters. Here's the reframe nobody gives you. Doubt is not weakness. Uncertainty is not incompetence. The moment you start questioning how much you actually know, that is not the beginning of failure. That is the beginning of real expertise. MacArthur Wheeler was certain. The surgeon who triple checks is not. One of them is dangerous. One of them you want operating on you. The people who change things, who build things that last, who make decisions that hold up, are not the most confident people in the room. They are the ones who stayed curious long enough to become genuinely good. Certainty is comfortable. Curiosity is powerful. I want to ask you something before you go. Think of one area of your life where you feel the most confident right now. Now ask yourself honestly, when was the last time you seriously questioned that confidence? Drop it in the comments. You don't have to name the area. You can just type, "I need to look closer." I'll see you there. And if this hits something real, subscribe. Because next video we're going deeper. We're breaking down confirmation bias, the reason your brain only ever finds evidence that you're already right. And once you see how it works, you'll realize it's been quietly running. Every argument, every decision, every belief you've held your entire life. I'll see you then.